Hey guys, welcome back for a brand new Q&A video. It's been a little too long since I've done one of these, and while I am still very disappointed about the South by Southwest cancellation, even though I do understand it, I'm just going to try to make the most of it by using this additional time that I've gotten back to do more videos on the channel, so hopefully you're going to see more all throughout the week. Let's get into it though. In case this is your very first Patreon Q&A video, these questions all come from particular members of the Patreon campaign. They're on a certain tier, and month to month they give me new questions to answer, and I got a bunch here. I got 5 in total this time around, and we're going to kick it off with Evan's question. Evan's asking, what are you most excited for in 2020? This could be anything. Most anticipated movie, new experiences to try, like bungee jumping last year, goals you're shooting for, like the New York Marathon last year, etc. So admittedly, Evan came up with this question a while back at the beginning of the year, but like I said, I haven't done one of these videos in a little while, but I'm actually kind of glad that I've held on to this question and I could be answering it now, because a lot has happened in 2020, and I don't want to make this a negative answer to the question, but I do think, some unfortunate events could lead to new goals that I might not have had at the very beginning of the new year. So with everything that went down on Collider, I can tell you guys right now that even though there's no more movie talk, can I have that back? Even though there's no more movie talk, it has motivated me to really get moving on something that I've been meaning to do on this channel for a long time, and it's start a regular live stream. I've kind of put the first pieces together, so it could be happening sooner rather than later. If you're on the Patreon team, you know a little more details of my plans there, but I'm also thinking about doing some test runs with Patreon members, so expect a weekly live stream about my favorite movie news stories of the week very, very soon. So that one's looking up. Of course, I also had my knee injury lately, which thankfully is improving. Once the swelling went down, I got a whole lot more mobility. I've been walking. I've been doing seated exercises at CrossFit, but that leads to another goal that I actually have discussed with Evan quite a bit over the years now. And it's the fact that I can't do a pull-up. I've been going to CrossFit, I've been going to the gym for a very, very long time. It is about time I should be able to do a pull-up. So with all of this seated exercise needing to happen, that's a goal that I'm taking a little more seriously now. I can't do much for my legs, but I've been working on upper body a lot. And before this injury is fully healed up, I want to be well on the road, if not doing my very first pull-up. So those are 2 goals that I have right now. If I get into the movies that I'm most excited for in 2020, we're going to be here all day. But you already saw my tweet about A Quiet Place Part 2, probably. I did see that. I loved it. More on that soon. Next question here is from Luke, and it's not actually a question. So Luke had also submitted a question early on in the year about Sundance movies, but the 2 of us were talking, and we decided to pivot to South by Southwest because, again, as you all know, the festival was canceled, and it's sad for many reasons. It's my favorite festival of the year. I have the most fun there. I can see a whole bunch of my friends from New York there, and it's a bummer that that's not happening. But the more serious ramifications with canceling a festival like this are the problems that it's going to cause local vendors, the job loss, all the folks that maybe made movies and thought that they, hit gold by getting a South by Southwest premiere, and now that rug is being pulled out from under them. And I think that's really unfortunate. There were a lot of big movies with studio backing that I was looking forward to, like Lovebirds per se, but there are a bunch of movies that were going to screen there that were looking for distribution, and I decided to pick 2 that I was really looking forward to that I just wanted to put in the spotlight right now. And the first one I'm going to tell you about is Holler. I'm going to read you the South by Southwest synopsis here. In a forgotten pocket of southern Ohio where American manufacturing and opportunity are drying up, a determined young woman finds a ticket out when she is accepted to college. Alongside her older brother, Ruth Avery joins a dangerous scrap metal crew in order to pay her way. Together, they spend one brutal winter working the scrap yards during the day and stealing valuable metal from the once thriving factories by night. With her goal in sight, Ruth finds the ultimate cost of an education for a girl like her may be more than she bargained for, and she soon finds herself torn between a promising future and the family she would leave behind. I wasn't really aware of this one when the festival lineup was first announced, but because I was supposed to be doing an interview for it, I looked into it a little bit, and I've got very high hopes for Jessica Barden, who you might know from the end of The Fucking World, and Haley is actually a huge fan of that show, and she insisted I watched it. And at this point, I think I'm on episode 4 of season 2, and she is so good in this show. If you have not watched it, please get on that. But she is definitely someone to watch, so that kind of drew me to Holler, and I've got really high hopes for this one. The director is someone that's been named a director to watch. A whole bunch of the people involved seem super promising, and I look forward to seeing this one when it comes out. Another one that I think this one was actually my most anticipated of the festival, and this is probably the one I'm most crushed not to get to see. It's the movie Witch Hunt. Again, a synopsis for this one. In a modern America where witches are real and witchcraft is illegal, a sheltered teenager must face her own demons and prejudices as she helps 2 young witches avoid law enforcement and cross the southern border to asylum in Mexico. A lot of you well know how obsessed I am with the movie Headcount. Headcount was Elle Callahan's feature directorial debut. Witch Hunt is her second film, and this was another one that was supposed to swing by the Collider studio for an interview while we were there, and I was so excited to get to meet her and to get to talk to her and the whole cast that she assembled for this one, which is a really great looking ensemble. So I don't know, Holler and Witch Hunt are ones that I recommend you keep an eye out for, and I most certainly am going to be tracking these two, and the second I get the chance to cover them in full, you can bet I'm going to do it. All right, next question here. It's a fun one from Billy. Billy wants to know, if you could be stuck in any time period, where would it be? I've talked about the time travel thing before, and I always do say I'm not one to go back in the past. I'd want to go to the future. I am a big fan of new and emerging technology, so I would just want to see what the future holds in that respect. But let's say I was stuck, because using the word stuck changes the game here a little. And if I had to go to a previous time period, I wouldn't want to be stuck somewhere where I wouldn't know the rules. So I guess I would probably pick the 90s. I loved growing up in the 90s. I loved 90s Nickelodeon. I loved the movies that came out in the 90s, like Jurassic Park and Scream. So if I had to be stuck, entertainment-wise, that wouldn't be a bad era to get stuck in, but also, like, I know the 90s, and if I was forced to be there for a long period of time, I feel like I could kind of find my footing very quickly. So I'm going to the 90s, Billy. All right, next one is from Michael. This one is, how do you prepare for a film festival? Very happy to be answering this question, Michael, so I can just start to move forward and think about film festivals to come. The way I usually prepare is the lineups are released. I go through the entire lineup, every single film on the lineup, and I circle everything that interests me. Then what winds up happening is we start working on, well, the work phase of it, which is building our interview studio schedule. And as that comes together, the movies that I'm assigned on that schedule become my priority. So those take position at the top of the list, I guess. And then with whatever time is left, I populate it with those movies that I circled. But I've said this before, but it's well worth repeating. In addition to those 2 layers of planning, I love leaving slots in my schedule open for new discoveries, because what winds up happening is there is always that movie, hopefully multiple movies, that no one has on their radar at the beginning of the festival. Word of mouth builds, and then you hope you have free time the last few days of your festival run so you could catch those movies. That's part of the reason why I wound up catching Minari at Sundance. I had a little bit of a heads up thanks to a very talented member of the Patreon team, but buzz started to build for that one, so it jumped up to the top of my list. And in the previous year, that's the reason I actually caught Brittany Runs a Marathon, because I heard such good things about it, and I was staying well past our interview schedule, and I used all that time to catch up on things like it was Brittany Runs a Marathon and also Blinded by the Light. I saw those 2 because they popped at Sundance, and I hadn't previously scheduled them. So going to a festival, having done your prep, but also keeping an open mind. All right. Last question here is from Ian, and Ian wants to know, are there any subgenres of horror you have a particular fondness for? What are your favorite movies from those subgenres? I'll bring up the obvious one first here. It's the slasher subgenre, thanks to Scream. And Scream is also the movie I credit with my love of horror overall, or at least my intense love. I was watching horror movies before then, but Scream kind of it flipped the switch with such a greater appreciation for horror storytelling, and it truly made me obsessed. Another one that I would recommend that's a little newer, and I just really love how it plays with the genre, is The Final Girls. If you haven't seen that, it's a fun play on a Friday the 13th type story, great ensemble, super colorful, very well designed movie, and it's a blast to watch, so go check that out. Another subgenre I love is the found footage subgenre. All began with Blair Witch. I still watch that movie now, and it creeps me out when I watch it in the dark, so that's a great one. The Paranormal Activity franchise, and I'm not just talking about the first one. 1, 2, and 3 are excellent for 2 reasons. I think that they continue the story with that family extremely well. I'm very, very surprised that they pulled that off as well as they did, because oftentimes with these types of movies, you kind of get burnt out on the idea, but they expanded the story very well, and they also expanded the way that they used the found footage format very well too, very creatively. Of course, things fizzled out with 4 after that, but at least we have 1, 2, and 3. And the marked ones. The marked ones is pretty good also. The other one that I want to point out here is VHS 2. That's one of my favorite found footage movies of all time. It's a fantastic anthology movie. Every single segment of that anthology is excellent. I want to shout out all of them right now, but for brevity's sake, I will point out the big favorite, Safe Haven. If you have not seen Safe Haven in VHS 2, you are missing out. I cannot believe what those filmmakers did with that kind of budget, that kind of storytelling. It is one of the creepiest things I've ever seen. It's not just one of the best short films I've ever seen. It's one of my favorite films overall. So please watch VHS, all of the segments, but keep an eye out for Safe Haven. All right, moving on now. I've got something that I've kind of grown to love recently, I guess, thanks to Channel Zero. A new favorite subgenre of mine is the creepypasta subgenre. I love the idea of creepypasta in general, just the idea of a creative story beginning on the internet, getting passed around, and then watching it morph as it's passed from person to person. And I think there's really great creative storytelling opportunities on the big screen for that. One, because of, the nugget of an idea that it starts with on the internet, but then also playing with the idea of how tales change as they're passed along from people, the evolving nature of storytelling. I don't see many filmmakers tapping into that as much as I would like. Headcount is one of the ones that did it. That's why I love that movie so much. So I'm hoping more filmmakers out there are taking a cue from films like Headcount and also the success of a series like Channel Zero, and they're going to run with that even more in the near future. So that's it. All 5 questions are done. If you want one of your questions answered on one of these videos, you know what to do. Head on over to the Patreon campaign. I've got a link at the bottom of the screen for you right now. And go sign up, submit a question. There's G-chats. There's so much more there. And I'm going to introduce some new rewards soon that I am very, very excited about. Before I say goodbye to you, let's give a quick roll call to all of my Q&A tier folks on the campaign. Evan, Luke, Billy, Michael, and Ian. We talk all the time, guys. You know how highly I think of you. I really do. I enjoy our chats. I enjoy our communication on the Patreon Messenger too. And it really is an honor to have you part of the campaign, especially because I've got the next phase of the campaign on my mind. Just something that I'm going to introduce to build community a little more. And the fact that the 5 of you will be part of that community really means a lot to me. So thank you so much for your support. Big thanks to everybody out there watching this video. Dewey says thanks too, even though he's kind of giving you all the cold shoulder right now. What's up, buddy? We're out of here. We got to go. Maybe he wants to be fed or something. I don't know. I'll see you soon with more Q&A videos.